But then I started speaking to Sam, and Sam seemed interested in our team, which was like blew my mind, to be honest. And this there wasn't. There's no way I thought Sam Hill would want to ride for my team. I guess when it's your own team, you're trying to do the best thing you can with it. But for somebody like Sam, who's wrote with his incredible Iron Horse Monster days, and then riding for Specialized Monster, why would he want to come and ride for us? But anyway, he seemed interested, and so I asked him, what kind of budget he was looking for, which was, I hadn't dealt with anything like that before. So I went back, spoke to...
Was it a decent number? Was it a little bit shocking taking it to the bosses?
I don't think it wasn't, it was obviously a good number, a number that I would never get paid in my lifetime for doing anything. But, I knew what other people were getting paid and stuff, roughly, I think that's one thing in our sport that would be better if everybody knew what everyone was getting paid. I really do think that.
Yeah.
Because
do you mind sitting on that topic a bit? And we won't forget to do the Samuel signing. But I've asked some, and it's kind of a topic that comes up. And I've asked some high-profile riders, one that maybe has left the team that you just spoke about, related to Josh. And he's not sure if it's a good thing. So I'm quite undecided, but you're as a team manager, you work with these brands. Can you unpack it a little bit on why you think it would be better? And I kind of half agree. Once everyone gets used to it and it's out in the open, maybe it will be better.
Yeah, and I understand both sides of to it. As I say, my opinions are just my opinions, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong with anything. Everyone's entitled to what they think. In other industries, a job title comes up and there's a salary for that job title. Or in football, somebody signs for £6 million an hour, and it's all over the newspaper. I honestly think that athletes in our sport, that's what we're talking about. Some of them get paid decent, and when I say decent, really well for riding a bike. But then in other industries, people get paid shed loads more for playing tennis. The risk and obviously there's as much effort goes into it, but the risk and reward of what we do is incredible compared to some other disciplines that get loads more money just because they're mainstream sports. Hopefully that'll change in the future. But I think that, the industry, some companies in the industry make a lot of money. There's no doubt that they don't make a lot of money because mountain biking is a sport, it's a leisure industry. It's huge. If you think about it, like how many people do you know that have got a tennis racket compared to who's got a bicycle? Like, I think there's more people have a bike than a tennis racket. That's just as an example. But if when
it's a
you
pretty
get
fair example. I mean, they kind of have it. There's a lot of kids now with bikes and adults, and they definitely don't have tennis rackets still in the garage. They don't care about it.
No. So obviously all the money that comes for tennis is from TV and outside sponsorship and stuff. But if everybody knew what each rider got paid, then as an up and coming rider, for one, that's like, it's a drive. If rider X who's come third in the World Cup in last year is getting paid X amount of money, I'm coming 25th. Rider X is coming 15th and he's getting that kind of money. You've got like stepping stones to look towards. I always, when I was racing, you have a goal like to get in the top 30 and then the top 20 and then the top 15. And I think if there's certain salaries that you can sort of move, that everybody knows about, then why is that something that should be hidden? I think you should be proud to earn that kind of money if you can earn that kind of money, because it's not forever. It's not like a CEO of a company that just can go on from being one CEO to another CEO to another CEO till they're in the retirement age. You can't do that with bike riding. So I think it's a good thing. And then obviously, if a new team comes together, and they're speaking to sponsors about budgets, and every team that wants to have a decent budget needs to have a high profile rider, because if they don't, the other industry sponsors won't put any money into it. And so I think it's a good building block to know, right, I'm going to put this program together. A top 10 rider costs that much money. He's on that much money. His contract's coming to an end. So that's how much money he's going to be looking for. I can base my team budget around trying to get a rider for that salary. And then, if a rider's coming to the end of the contract and they're on X amount of money and another team wants them, then they need to think, well, if I pay him a little bit more, then I can get that rider onto my team. And, as a team manager, that pisses me off when you've built a rider up and you've stuck with them, and then all of a sudden they start getting good results from all the work you've put in and based with them. That can be annoying if somebody then comes in and nicks their rider. But then when you sit back and think about it, each rider only has a small career. And if you can step up again and increase their salary, again, that's something that you can speak to your sponsors about, rather than maybe potentially losing that rider to another team. So yeah, in my opinion, I think all professional riders' salaries should be out there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there was a time, my first contract, I was 2 World Cup, just as a reference, just as like this reference point. So I'd had 2 top 10s, I'd won a Norber, and my offer was one of the only offers that come in, right? So supply and demand. So there's that challenge. But the offer, I couldn't really do anything about it because I take that or I'm a privateer. But the offer was less than what the mechanic got, because he was a US citizen, and they probably looked at it as like, okay, he needs to at least have a manager wage of one of these fast food restaurants, so the equivalent, right? Like a basic wage, because he's basically committing the full year to driving the truck around and helping us. Like, it is a full-time job. Let me just put that out there. But the rider that's risking life and limb, and all the pressure's coming back to the rider when the results start dropping and the mechanic saying, hey, let's, what can I do? Like, we kind of need you to do better so that this whole thing stays alive. I'm getting way less than that, than a basic wage. So then you can say, well, that's not right, because you'd had a certain number of results and you were this in the ranking. Like, you can't, there should be like a minimum pay, because that company definitely had the money, but they leveraged me. Now, I accepted and I signed the contract. So I didn't bitch at the time, and I'm not really bitching now. I'm just saying it seems like a big disconnect. And if it was out in the open, there would probably be a little bit more protection at the bottom. And then at the top, yeah, it'll be definitely interesting. Will that legitimize our sport or make us less mainstream? I don't really know. If you compare our salaries to motocross and golf and all these things, maybe we won't even get taken seriously. However, we're not really getting taken seriously as it stands now from outside industry.
No, and that's a good point. But when I started racing, okay, I was in my mid-20s. I'd already worked at a normal job from leaving school for 8 or 9 years, and I didn't get paid a good salary because my heart wasn't into it. I worked in an office, in a finance office, that I absolutely hated every minute of it. And I could have done all my exams and passed all my exams and gone on and got a decent salary. But I didn't want to do that. I ended up leaving and started mountain biking, not as a career choice. I just went to a race and ended up doing well and just absolutely loved it, and then fell into it that way. But at the time, I was... and I've only thought about this later. In the UK, downhill was a big thing then, as in, like, it was on Channel 4 TV, the national series. First year, I did 1 year racing in 97, and then I raced, my first year elite was in 98. I managed to get into elite pretty quickly. And and it was on national TV in the UK, which is, we've got a big demographic. It was on Channel 4. It was sponsored by Toyota RAV4 at the time. So, it's pretty big time if you think about it back then. And I came second in the national series behind Petey that year. And I basically borrowed my bike and I got... Well, they lent me a slalom bike and they lent me a downhill bike, which I had to give back at the end of the year. And I think I got £1,000 in photo bonus, which I earned in the first month because I got second at the first national and was in every and the UK was really good for magazines, so I was in MBUK, Dirt, MBR, all that stuff because people didn't know who I was. And then after that, I started racing World Cups. Like my first World Cup was later on that year, qualified 17th. I made it through to the finals. Everyone told me there's no way you'll qualify at World Cups and stuff. And I literally, had to give my bikes back at the end of the year. And I was on the TV and I was in every magazine so much. So and that was kind of my career, the most I ever sort of earned, but I never really did that super well, but I got 10th at the first ever Fort William World Cup. I won a national dual title. Say I got lots of podiums in the UK and did well in the UK. And I think one year there was a poll thing with Dirt magazine and stuff, the top 10 most sort of riders in the magazines that got the most press, and I think I was number 3. So looking back now, I should have got paid some money, but at the time I didn't really think I deserved it. But now, as I've learned a lot more about the industry and everything, then I should have done, I think. And like you said there, these companies deciding what you're going to get paid, that they make you that offer, and 100% that mechanic who, if he's doing a full-time job, he needs to earn enough money to live, unless I think back in the day it was sort of perceived that a mechanic would be a young shop mechanic that didn't earn a lot of money and just wanted to travel on the World Cup circuit. And that's all well and good for a year or so, but at the end of the day, we've all got to live and feed ourselves. One of a big sponsor, like what sponsored you, that they wouldn't, the managers there wouldn't work for minimum wage, or a big company can go to Eurobike and spend $250,000 on a Eurobike stand for the week. It's the balance of everything isn't quite right, in my opinion.
The money is when there clearly is money there, then it's a bit of a piss take to do less than minimum wage. When you're asking someone to do a full-time job, it's not recommended, nor do they want you to go get a part-time job at home to pay some of your expenses because you don't have enough. So yeah, it's such a catch-22. I think I agree with you. If it came out and we were a bit more open, some of the first-time factory riders, they might be forced to pay some of the guys a little bit more. Then there'll be less money for the other guys that are on the sort of the trying to make it. And I'm not trying to come across harsh, and there might be a knock-on effect, but maybe it would weed out people that are unrealistic about getting a big factory ride at some time. And in other sports, that happens very quick. It costs you a lot of money to probably make it in tennis, costs you a lot of money to make it in golf, probably costs you a lot of money to make it in motocross. So at some point, it's sink or swim, right? And maybe in our sport, we're letting it drag out too long. I don't want the field to go smaller and that whole side topic whether 30 in the final is right or wrong. I'm not really for that because I love a Cinderella story. I think it takes every rider a little bit longer to find his feet. But when you've been going at it a couple years and you're still just getting parts and frames, and it's okay, so if you're just doing that as a summer holiday and you're aware of it, that's cool. But if you are still trying to make it in the sport, if the salaries were out there and there was sort of a tiered system. Like, okay, if you're not in this ranking, we can't even give you parts because we're trying to give the factory teams money and parts. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
No, 100%. Um, and yeah, I agree with that. That would be a good structure for doing it. Obviously, you know, it would also be good. You know, say you were a 16-year-old kid and you doing well in the youth category, and you were coming towards the end of school and deciding what what you're going to do. Some parents 100% are just fully into their kids racing bikes and stuff, and that's the be all and end all. But then there might be other parents that think, well, you need to go to uni or you need to go and get a job so that you've got a career, set up for yourself. But if all salaries like that and salaries for mechanics jobs, team managers jobs, 1 year's jobs, if that was all documented where you could look, a kid could say to their mum and dad, look, if I go into this industry, I can earn this kind of money doing this. I'm not very academic at school. I'm probably going to get this job, and that's going to be that salary. I can get this salary if I go down this career path. I think that would help with some decisions like that. But yeah, if you had a structure where it was sort of on your ranking, which I guess it kind of is a little bit, but if it was a bit more documented, then I think that would be really good. And the one thing I don't understand, and I don't know if you get this a lot, but I get so many young kids coming to me and saying, I want to be on a team. I want to be sponsored. I came 5th in my category at the local downhill race. It seems that every single kid in mountain biking expects to be sponsored. And you try and explain to them, well, why, what are you doing for that company that they're going to invest all this money into, whether it's just a free bike or whatever? It's still a lot of money. And I think things like that needs to be explained. Some of these, there's so many articles on bike setup. You can click on a video on how to set your tram gears up. I don't think there's enough information out there on how exactly the whole structure of the sport is. I think that would be something that needs to be done.
We're doing a little bit on the podcast because when riders come on and their direct messages are often, how do I get sponsored? We say it quite often. I think it's the wrong question. It is odd. I think the right question is, how do I get faster? How do I navigate difficulties in my race career? How do I further my career? I mean, yeah, I don't know what that is. Hey, and it's the same as the bike shop. Everyone wants a discount at a bike shop. It's just part of the industry because I don't know. It's just been a bit rough around the edges in wild west for so long, but it's damn well corporate now. You look at the earnings, and which we'll get to later, is there's been buyouts and all sorts of corporate structures that you've been through and now seeing the horrible side of that. Yeah, there must be some more education. It's two-way street sponsorship. But I think if you get to the point that you are so good, someone will not ignore you. And that should be the goal.